Detective Mike Rogers stared at the body lying face down in the restaurant kitchen. James Wong, the famous chef and owner of the Golden Dragon, was dead. The knife still stuck in his back gleamed under the bright kitchen lights. Time of death? Mike asked the medical examiner. Between 9 and 10 p.m. last night, Dr. Thompson replied, examining the body. The knife went straight through his heart. Mike looked around the pristine kitchen. Everything was in perfect order, except for the body and a broken plate near the victim. The restaurant had closed at 8 p.m. the previous night, but Wong often stayed late to experiment with new recipes. Who found him? Mike asked the first officer on the scene. The morning prep cook at 6 a.m. She came in to start the day's preparations and found him like this. Mike nodded and began interviewing the staff as they arrived. There were 4 key suspects. David Chen, the sous chef who had worked with Wong for 5 years. He was passed over for promotion last month when Wong hired an outside chef to run his new restaurant. Maria Garcia, the restaurant manager, who'd been arguing with Wong about menu changes. She wanted to add more affordable options, but Wong refused to compromise his artistic vision. Robert Kim, Wong's business partner, who stood to inherit full ownership of the successful restaurant chain. Their recent partnership agreement had a clause about succession in case of death. Lisa Wang, a food critic who had given Wong's newest restaurant a terrible review last week. Wong had publicly accused her of taking bribes from his competitors. Each suspect had been at the restaurant that night. David stayed until 8:30 p.m. to clean up. Maria left at 7:45 p.m. after the dinner service. Robert had a meeting with Wong at 8:15 p.m. about finances. Lisa came in at 9 p.m. claiming she wanted to apologize for the review. As Mike examined the evidence, several things caught his attention. The kitchen security camera had been turned off at 8:45 p.m. A receipt showed a large order of Wong's famous spicy sauce had been placed before closing. Most interestingly, the broken plate near Wong's body had traces of the sauce, but no food. Mike carefully studied the victim's hands. There were no defensive wounds, suggesting Wong knew his killer. The chef's phone showed a text sent at 9:15 p.m. Come to the kitchen. We need to talk. After 2 days of investigation, Mike gathered all the suspects in the restaurant dining room. The truth had become clear to him. The killer is David Chen, Mike announced. And I can prove it. David's face remained calm. That's ridiculous. I left at 8:30. The cameras show me leaving. Yes, they do, Mike agreed. But you came back. You knew Wong's habits, that he always tested new recipes at night. You also knew he'd been working on improving his famous spicy sauce recipe. Mike pulled out a plastic evidence bag containing the broken plate. This plate had traces of the sauce, but Wong never got to taste it. You added poison to his special sauce, knowing he would taste it during his evening experiments. When he realized the sauce tasted wrong, you had to act fast. You grabbed the knife and stabbed him before he could expose you. That's just speculation, David said, but sweat appeared on his forehead. The security camera being turned off at 8:45 was no coincidence. You came back to set your trap. Wong's last text was to you, wasn't it? He recognized the changed taste in his sauce. That's why he texted you to come to the kitchen. He trusted you enough to ask for an explanation. Instead, you killed him. Mike nodded to the officers waiting nearby. We found the poison in your locker, David. The same poison that's now showing up in Wong's toxicology report. You were careful about the knife wore gloves. Chose one from the kitchen that everyone used. But you got careless with the poison. As the officers led David away in handcuffs, he finally broke. He was going to destroy everything I built. 5 years I gave him, and he brought in some hotshot to run the new place. My place. I earned it. Mike watched them leave, then turned to the remaining staff. Another case solved, but no real victory. Just another tragedy born of jealousy and betrayal, served with a side of revenge. The Golden Dragon would recover and reopen, but it would never be quite the same. Like the broken plate that helped solve the case, some things once broken can never be fully repaired.